Let's see how well you know your grammar. So I'm going to give you a question. I'll give you a moment to think of the answer, and then I will tell you the answer and explain why it is correct. So let's begin with our first question right here. If somebody were to say, whatever you do, don't leave me alone talking to Wes. He's so Okay, how would you complete that sentence? Are you going to use A, bored, or B, boring? So I hope that you chose B, boring. That is the correct answer. He's so boring. So this can be a little confusing, the difference between ed and ing adjectives. In short, you're going to use ed adjectives to talk about the way you feel. You're going to use ing adjectives to describe a situation, a thing, or just a person's characteristic. In this case, we're talking about a characteristic of mine, that I'm boring. And this is just an example. Of course, I hope that you do not think that I am boring. I would rather you say that maybe I am amusing, or interesting, or charming. I would take any of those ing adjectives. And if you do believe that, then please go ahead, subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your new English teacher. My name is Wes, as you already know. The channel, Interactive English, that's what it's all about, just trying to help you reach your fluency goals. Here's your next challenging question. If I had taken my medicine this morning, right now. Are you going to use A, I would have felt sick, or B, I wouldn't feel sick? So I said it's challenging and difficult because we're talking about a mixed conditional, which means the answer is B, I wouldn't feel sick. If I had taken my medicine this morning, I wouldn't feel sick right now. In this case, we're mixing the second and third conditional. So we have an imaginary condition because we're imagining a different past, which is the third conditional. If I had taken my medicine this morning, so I did not take it, and that leads us in to a hypothetical result in the present. I wouldn't feel sick right now. Another way to think about it is with these two statements right here. I didn't take my medicine this morning, therefore I feel sick right now. I'm saying the same thing with that mixed conditional. If I had taken my medicine this morning, I wouldn't feel sick right now. Now, when it comes to learning advanced grammar or grammar at any level, it's not just something that you should write. You also need to speak using the correct grammar. And a great language school to help you improve your grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation is Lingoda, which is the sponsor of today's lesson. So Lingoda is an online language school where you can study English, business English, Spanish, German, or French. And I really think Lingoda can help you for several reasons. First, these are small group classes, which means you will have plenty of opportunities to speak. You can ask a lot of questions. Classes are also available 24/7, which means you pretty much get to customize your learning schedule. They have qualified teachers using a proven curriculum. You get to learn at your own pace, which I think is the ideal way to learn. You basically get to design your course because the courses are suited to your level and needs, and you can choose which topics you would like to cover. You also get to study from the comfort of your own home, and you can do all of this at affordable prices. And I know all this because I've also studied with Lingoda. You can see me right there taking a class in Spanish, and it was a great experience, and I was able to improve my pronunciation, which is something that I wanted to do. So if you would like to know if Lingoda can help you like it helped me, well then that's easy because when you sign up, each plan includes a 7-day free trial. But most importantly, right now, Lingoda has an exclusive offer just for you. You can get 30% off all monthly subscriptions and marathon courses when you use the voucher code WESOCT30. Wes like my name, OCT like October, and then the number 30. So click on the link in the description if you would like to sign up and start improving your English. Don't forget to use that voucher code WESOCT30 and then just put yourself in a position so that you can achieve your fluency goals. Let's get back to our advanced grammar quiz, and here is your next question. I don't know. What are you going to say? Where I should go, or where should I go? This is something I notice that many learners commonly confuse. So what we're talking about, that blank, is really a noun clause, which means the answer is A. I don't know where I should go. So a noun clause, it's a dependent clause that has a subject and a verb. And just know that quite often noun clauses are going to begin with words like that or how, or those WH words like who, what, when, why, or where. And then we have this question right here. The movie at 8 p.m. Or you could say the movie at 8 o'clock. How are you going to complete that sentence? Are you going to use A, will start, B, starts, or C, is starting? So for this one, I guarantee that you got the correct answer, and that is because all of them are correct. It's a little bit of a trick question. You could use will start to talk about things that will happen in the future. You could use starts, the present simple, to refer to scheduled events in the future. And you could also use is starting, the present continuous, when talking about future arrangements. Even though all are correct, it really just depends on the context when deciding which one you're going to use. So let me try to give you some context and tell you how my mind works as to how I would choose which one of these. So I think overwhelmingly, I am going to use the present simple and just say starts. If somebody were to ask me, hey, what time's the movie? I would say the movie starts at 8 o'clock. I would probably use is starting if I kind of want to emphasize and highlight the time. In that case, maybe I'm trying to say, well, okay, I want you to be there, all right? Don't be late. Just remember, the movie is starting at 8 o'clock. So when you use the present continuous, you're really referring to that point in time. So I'm really trying to make that clear. The movie's starting at 8 o'clock. And then, to be honest, I would probably use will start less frequently. I might use it if I'm thinking about maybe other things that are also going to happen in the future. If I were thinking to myself, well, I'll have to eat dinner before the movie, and then the movie will start at 8 o'clock. And after the movie, I'll have to go home because I have to work tomorrow. So hopefully that gives you a little more context as to when you might use these different answers. Here is your next question. I recommend that everyone watching this video, that like button, all right? Are you going to say hit that like button or hits that like button? So once again, this can be a bit tricky. The answer is A, hit. We're talking about the subjunctive mood, and we use this to talk about desires, wishes, or suggestions. Now, grammatically speaking, in that noun clause, that's right, we're talking about another noun clause that everyone watching this video hit that like button. In that noun clause, you're going to use the base verb when we're talking about the subjunctive mood. And this can be a little tricky if the subject is perhaps in the third person, like he, she, or it, or if we're talking about an indefinite pronoun like everyone. Now, in spoken English, people may not always follow this rule. So if I'm going to use the subjunctive mood, I could say something like, I wish I were faster. I wish I were taller. I wish I were living in a big, beautiful home along the coast overlooking the ocean. So in spoken English, you may hear somebody say, I wish I was taller. I wish I were taller. I wish I was taller. It can be confusing, but you will hear both in spoken English. Next, we have this question. I English for several months, and I plan to continue improving my language skills. Are you going to use A, have studied, or B, have been studying? So we're talking about the difference between the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. All right, I hope that you chose B, have been studying. I've been studying English for several months, and I plan to continue improving my language skills. So B, I think it's the correct answer. You could use A, but I think B is the better answer, and let me explain. So the present perfect and the present perfect continuous, it can be confusing because they are sometimes interchangeable, especially if we're talking about an unfinished action, which in this case we are. But you're going to use the present perfect continuous, more specifically, when you're talking about an action that started in the past, it's continued to the present, and then will likely continue into the future. And it's the second part of this sentence, and I plan to continue improving my language skills. That is why I say B, have been studying, is the better answer. Here's the next question. Making progress. We could not finish before the deadline. Are you going to use A, in spite of, or B, although? Okay, so I hope that you chose A, in spite of. In spite of making progress, we could not finish before the deadline. So both in spite of and although, they're referring to contrasting ideas. The only real difference is the way that you use them, and I'm talking about the structure of the sentence. After in spite of, we're going to use a noun, a gerund, which is that ing form, or a pronoun. After although, we're going to use a subject and a verb. So in our sentence, you have making, that is a gerund, so you're going to use in spite of making progress. Now, I could use although and say the same thing and use a subject and a verb, and I would say, although we made progress, we could not finish before the deadline. So just remember that in spite of making progress is a phrase, whereas although we made progress is a clause. They're really the same. It just depends on how you want to structure the sentence. Here's your next question, talking about prepositions. Last night we left New York City. It was a long flight, but we're really excited to see the Big Apple. Are you going to complete this sentence with to, from, or for? Which preposition completes this sentence? Last night we left New York City. So the answer is C, for. Last night we left for New York City. Now I know prepositions can be tricky, and the best thing you can do is just practice them like we're doing right now. So let me explain this. The second sentence, that is important. It was a long flight, but we're excited to see the Big Apple. That tells us that the destination is New York City. Therefore, we're not going to use from. And normally, if we're talking about a place, you would go to a place. But our verb is leave. You're not going to use to when the verb is leave. You're going to use for if you're talking about going to a destination. You leave for some place. Last night we left for New York City. Your next question. Did you invite to the party? Are you going to use A, who, or B, whom? The correct answer is B, whom. Whom did you invite to the party? I would say that A is also correct in spoken English, and I will talk about that in just a moment. But who and whom can be confusing, but think of it this way. You're going to use who when the unknown is referring to the subject, and you'll use whom when the unknown is referring to the object. So all we have to do is take our question and change it into a statement. And I could say, well, I invited him to the party, or I invited her to the party. Him and her, those are objects. So in that case, I'm going to use whom. Whom did you invite to the party? Now I said that A is correct in spoken English because, well, yeah, people just don't follow the rules. I think it's quite common in places like the United States, which is where I'm from. Most people will use who instead of whom. And I am somebody who also does this. If I were to ask this question, I would just say, who did you invite to the party? So just keep that in mind that this is another one of those rules in spoken English that people will tend to break. Who versus whom? Here is another question. I bought a gift for my little girl. It's this little stuffed puppy right here. I hope she enjoys gift. Are you going to use a, the, or no article? Which one? I hope that you chose B, the. I hope she enjoys the gift. That is the correct answer. So really what we're talking about is the rule of first mention. And what this rule says is that the first time you mention a singular noun, you're going to use the indefinite article a or an. And the second time that you mention that same noun, you're going to use the definite article the, because it is now known. So this is a very useful and important rule to follow if you are writing a story or telling a story, because you want to make sure you get those articles correct. I hope that you enjoyed the gift of this grammar lesson, and if you did, then you can give me a gift. And that is the gift of writing to me in the comments, because I just love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.